The annual Crestview Middle School Science Fair was a cacophony of nervous energy and erupting papier-mâché volcanoes. But in the back corner, 13-year-old Darius Williams was in a different universe. His project wasn't made of baking soda and vinegar. It was a meticulously constructed scale model of a plasma propulsion engine, built from scavenged computer parts, copper wire, and a modified microwave magnetron. Wires snaked across the table, connected to a car battery that hummed with quiet potential. The title, handwritten on a poster board, read, M-Drive Prototype, Testing for Anomalous Thrust. Darius, a lanky boy with large, thoughtful eyes and a quiet intensity, was fine-tuning a connection when his science teacher, Mr. Peterson, approached with a judging committee. Mr. Peterson, 45, wore a perpetually weary expression and a tie decorated with cartoon rockets, a cruel irony given his complete lack of imagination. And this, judges, is our ambitious entry from Mr. Williams, Peterson said, his voice dripping with condescension. He gestured vaguely at the complex apparatus. Darius has a fondness for science fiction. The judges, a retired chemist and a local dentist, looked bewildered. An M-Drive? The retired chemist asked, peering at the poster. Son, that's a theoretical concept. Major agencies have spent millions with no conclusive results. What makes you think you can build one in your garage? Before Darius could explain, Mr. Peterson let out a short, derisive laugh. His garage is exactly where this belongs. Darius, this is a science fair, not a junkyard. Where are your control variables? Your data tables? Darius stood his ground, his voice soft but firm. The data is on my laptop, sir. I've logged over 200 hours of tests. The thrust is minuscule, but it's consistent and, according to Newtonian physics, it shouldn't be there at all. That's the point. Mr. Peterson picked up a spool of copper wire from the table, shaking his head. The point is to learn the scientific method, not to pretend you're an Elon Musk. People need to master the basics before they try to reinvent physics. He put the wire down with a dismissive thud. This is a mess. It's an embarrassment to the school. I'm disqualifying it. The word embarrassment hung in the air, a hot, sharp sting. Darius's shoulders slumped. The other students nearby snickered. But, sir, Darius started, his eyes glistening. No buts, Peterson interrupted. You're disqualified for safety reasons. That car battery alone is a hazard. Now unplug this thing before you electrocute yourself. As the judges moved on, shaking their heads, Darius was left alone with his lifeless engine. The hum of the battery was gone, replaced by the roaring shame in his ears. He began to pack up, his movements slow and heavy. Later that evening, dejected and angry, he sat in his small bedroom, the disqualified project sitting in the corner like a monument to his failure. His older sister, Keisha, a sharp-witted college student, found him there. Peterson again? She asked, her voice soft. He said it was an embarrassment, Darius mumbled. Not looking up, Keisha's eyes narrowed. She picked up his project journal, filled with complex equations and meticulous notes. His ignorance is the embarrassment. She scrolled through her phone. You know what? If that small-minded teacher won't see your genius, let's find someone who will. She navigated to the Open Innovation portal on the SpaceX website, a section where the public could submit novel ideas. Describe your project. Just the facts. Upload your data logs and a picture. It's pointless, Darius sighed. Humor me, Keisha insisted. With nothing left to lose, Darius typed up a brief summary of his experiment, attached his files, and hit submit. It felt like throwing a message in a bottle into a cosmic ocean. He closed his laptop, the act feeling more like a eulogy than a submission. The next day at school was worse. Mr. Peterson, in front of the entire class, used Darius's project as a learning moment. Dreaming big is one thing, class, he pontificated. But true science is about discipline and accepting your limits. It's about knowing what's possible for someone like you. Darius stared at his desk, the words, someone like you, burning into his mind. He didn't see the unmarked black sedan pull into the school parking lot. He didn't see the two men and a woman in crisp, professional attire step out, their postures radiating a quiet, formidable authority. They walked with purpose, bypassing the main office and heading straight for the principal's office. The intercom in Mr. Peterson's classroom crackled to life. "Mr. Peterson, could you and Darius Williams please report to the principal's office immediately?" The class owed. A trip to the principal's office was never good. Mr. Peterson gave Darius a smug. "I told you, look, this is about your little safety hazard. I'm sure," he muttered. They walked in silence down the hall. But when Mr. Peterson opened the principal's door, the scene inside was not what he expected. Principal Davis looked pale and flustered, and the three strangers turned to look at them, their gazes intense. The woman in the lead, her hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes sharp and intelligent, spoke first, her voice cutting through the stuffy room. "Darius Williams? I'm Dr. Eva Thorne, head of propulsion research at SpaceX. We've reviewed your M-Drive submission." She paused, her eyes locking onto his. "We believe you may have stumbled onto something our team has been chasing for years. We need to talk." Mr. Peterson's smug expression shattered into a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. The principal's office felt like the bridge of a starship. Mr. Peterson stood frozen by the door, his face a flickering screen of confusion, denial, and dawning horror. Principal Davis kept nervously adjusting his tie. But Darius, for the first time all week, he felt a crackle of energy, the same hum that came from his car battery. Dr. Eva Thorne didn't smile. Her demeanor was one of pure, unadulterated scientific focus. "Your data, Mr. Williams," she said, bypassing all pleasantries. "The signal-to-noise ratio in your thrust measurements is remarkable for a garage setup. You use a laser interferometer to measure displacement." Darius, finding his voice, nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I built it from a DVD burner laser and some mirrors. I had to isolate it from floor vibrations with old car springs." One of the men with Dr. Thorne, a young engineer, let out a low whistle. "Ingenious." Dr. Thorne's sharp eyes scanned Darius's project journal, which Principal Davis had nervously retrieved from his backpack. "Your methodology for canceling out thermal expansion as a variable is more elegant than our early attempts. Who mentored you on this?" "No one, ma'am," Darius said softly. "I read papers online and watched a lot of lectures." Mr. Peterson finally found his voice, a strangled, defensive sound. This is highly irregular. He's a child. That project was a safety hazard. It was disqualified." Dr. Thorne turned her gaze to him, and it was like a laser cutter. "The only hazard I see is an educational environment that dismisses breakthrough potential because it doesn't arrive in a pre-packaged kit." She looked back at Darius. "We would like you to present your findings to our advanced concepts team, a virtual meeting. Today, we brought a secure satellite link." Principal Davis, seeing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the school, suddenly found his backbone. "Of course, anything for our star student. We'll use the media center. Right now." The scene in the media center was surreal. Darius sat at a computer, his disqualified project set up beside him. On the large screen were the faces of a dozen SpaceX scientists. Mr. Peterson and Principal Davis were relegated to the back, forced to watch. For 30 minutes, Darius walked the team through his work. He explained his reasoning, his failures, his incremental successes. He answered their rapid-fire questions with clarity and depth that left the room in stunned silence. He wasn't a student presenting a project. He was a colleague discussing research. The anomalous thrust is consistent at 3.2 micronewtons, a senior engineer on the screen mused. That's in the ballpark of our own lab results, with millions of dollars of equipment. Dr. Thorne, who was in the room, finally allowed a small, tight smile. "Darius, what you've achieved is extraordinary. We'd like to formally incorporate your data and your experimental design into our research. We'll be sending over a collaboration agreement and a consulting fee." The word consulting fee made Principal Davis's eyes bulge. As the call ended, the atmosphere was transformed. Darius was no longer the embarrassment. He was the prodigy. Reporters, tipped off by the school, were already gathering outside. But as Dr. Thorne and her team prepared to leave, she pulled Darius aside. Talent like yours is a national asset, Darius. It needs to be protected and nurtured. Be careful who you trust with it. Her eyes flickered almost imperceptibly toward Mr. Peterson. The warning was clear. The fallout was swift. The local news ran the story. Local boy genius impresses SpaceX. Darius was a mini-celebrity. Mr. Peterson became the butt of jokes, a symbol of small-mindedness. The school board, smelling positive tar, launched an inquiry into his teaching methods. But in the shadows, the validation that launched Darius to fame was also painting a target on his back. The day after the SpaceX visit, Darius received an email to his personal account. It was from a prestigious, cutthroat STEM academy for the gifted, offering him a full scholarship. The director, a man named Dr. Sterling, wrote effusively about Darius's unparalleled potential. Flattered, Darius showed it to his sister, Keisha. Her brow furrowed. This is the same academy that rejected me last year. They only take kids with corporate sponsors or billionaire donors. How did they hear about you so fast? That same evening, as Darius was working on a new calculation, his computer screen flickered. A sophisticated, encrypted message box popped up unbidden. The text was brief and chilling. Asterisk, your work on resonant cavity thrusters is of great interest. The SpaceX arrangement is limiting. We can offer superior resources and discretion. Your current environment is not secure. Terminate with SpaceX. We will be in touch. Asterisk, the message then vanished, leaving no trace it was ever there. Someone else was watching. Someone with the technological prowess to bypass his firewalls and the audacity to try and poach a 13-year-old from SpaceX. Dr. Thorne's warning echoed in his mind. His genius was no longer just a personal dream. It was a commodity and a dangerous one. The phantom message on his screen felt like a digital ghost, leaving a chill that lingered long after it vanished. Darius stared at the empty space where the words had been. Terminate with SpaceX. The demand was as arrogant as it was terrifying. Keisha, looking over his shoulder, immediately unplugged the computer from the wall. This isn't a scholarship offer, Darius. This is an abduction attempt, she whispered, her voice tight. They hacked our home network. They reported the incident to Dr. Thorne, who took it with a grim seriousness that was more alarming than any panic. I was afraid of this, she said over a secure video line. Your work touches on propulsion physics that has significant non-civilian applications. Corporate espionage is one thing, but this feels different, more aggressive. We're increasing your digital security, but you need to be aware of your physical surroundings. The world, what had just opened up for Darius, now felt like it was closing in, full of unseen threats. Mr. Peterson's petty ridicule seemed like a quaint memory from a simpler, safer time. At school, he was now treated with a hushed, cautious reverence, but it was isolating. The other kids either stared or asked him to build them a robot. The only person who seemed to treat him normally was Liam, a quiet, fiercely intelligent boy in his class who was more interested in cryptography than physics. Encrypted pop-up that self-deletes? Liam mused when Darius confided in him, careful not to reveal the message's content. That's state-level stuff, or a very well-funded private actor. You need a shadow network, something they can't see. Meanwhile, the inquiry into Mr. Peterson concluded. He wasn't fired, but he was formally reprimanded and reassigned to teaching remedial science to sixth graders, a profound humiliation for a man who saw himself as an academic gatekeeper. The bitterness festered in him, a poison looking for a vector. The mysterious Dr. Sterling from the STEM Academy didn't give up. A formal, printed letter arrived at Darius's home, reiterating the scholarship offer. It was followed by a phone call to his mother from a smooth-talking admissions counselor who was far too pushy, asking detailed questions about the specifics of the SpaceX agreement. Darius, with Liam's help, set up a digital honeypot, a fake, isolated server that looked like it contained his research notes. They seeded it with plausible but flawed data. Within hours, it was probed by an IP address masked through multiple international relays. They took the bait, Liam confirmed. They're definitely watching. The pressure was building. Darius felt it every time a strange car slowed down near his house, Every time he got a new follower on social media with no profile picture, he was trying to live two lives, the 13-year-old boy and the asset being hunted. The breaking point came during a school field trip to the local science museum. As his class marveled at the planetarium show, Darius slipped away to the restroom. A man in a dark blazer was waiting for him, leaning against the sinks. He wasn't menacing, but his calm was more threatening than any aggression. Darius Williams, the man, said, his voice a low, even monotone, "My employer's offer is final. You have 48 hours to publicly sever ties with SpaceX. Your family's safety depends on it." Before Darius could even process the threat, the man straightened up and walked out, blending seamlessly into a crowd of tourists. Terrified, Darius found Keisha and Liam. He told them what happened. "They're escalating. They're inside your school schedule," Keisha said, her face pale. Liam, however, was already looking at his phone. "I put a Bluetooth tracker on your backpack after the hack. For safety. It's been pinging its location every 30 seconds. He showed them the screen. A map showed their location at the museum. But a second, identical signal was moving away from them, heading downtown. They cloned your tracker or planted a duplicate. They know we're tracking you, and they're mocking us." The sophistication of the operation was dizzying. They weren't just hackers. They had physical operatives who could infiltrate a school trip. That night, as a shaken Darius tried to sleep, his phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. It contained a single time-stamped photograph. It was a picture of his mother, taken that very afternoon, leaving her office. The message below was simple: 48 hours. He was out his depth. He was a scientist, not a spy. He had to tell Dr. Thorne. This was no longer about his project. It was about his family. He opened his laptop to send a secure message, his fingers trembling on the keys. Just as he was about to hit send, a new window forcefully opened on his screen, bypassing all of Liam's new security protocols. It wasn't from a mysterious organization. It was from Mr. Peterson's personal email address. The message was a single venomous line, asterisk, "I know who's after you. Meet me tomorrow, alone, or I take what I know to the people who will pay the most for it." Asterisk. Mr. Peterson's message was a wild card, a potential trap laid by either a desperate man or a cunning predator. Darius stared at the words, his mind racing through the probabilities. Trusting the teacher who had publicly humiliated him was a massive risk. But Peterson was also the only person who had directly inserted himself into the situation with a claim of knowledge. He didn't go to the meeting alone. Keisha and Liam positioned themselves across the street from the deserted, boarded-up arcade Peterson had specified, armed with phones and a fierce, protective resolve. Darius walked in, his heart hammering against his ribs. Peterson was there, looking more haggard than menacing. The faint smell of stale coffee clung to his worn jacket. He wasn't a mastermind. He was a cornered animal. "They contacted me," Peterson said without preamble, his voice a low, nervous rasp. "2 days ago, a man offered me money, a lot of money, said they were a rival research firm, and wanted me to vouch for your project instability, to say you were a fraud, that your data was fabricated." Darius felt a cold fury. "And you said yes." "I was angry, humiliated." Peterson's eyes darted around a dusty, shadowy space. "But then I did some digging. The firm doesn't exist. The man who contacted me, I saw him on the news. He's a former Mossad agent turned private security consultant. This isn't about corporate rivalry, Williams. This is espionage. These are dangerous people. He was selling out his would-be accomplices to save his own skin, but the information was gold. A name, a background. It was the first solid lead. Why tell me?" Darius asked, his voice steady. "Because they'll use me and throw me away. Just like the school did." Peterson spat, bitterness overriding his fear. "I give you this. You call off SpaceX and the school board. You tell them I helped you. You get me my old job back." It was a despicable, self-serving deal, but it was the only one on the table. Darius agreed. He relayed the name, Ari Block, to Dr. Thorne. The SpaceX security team moved with stunning speed. Ari Block was a known entity, a talent acquisition specialist for a shadowy multinational conglomerate called Omnicorp, a company with deep ties to defense departments and a reputation for acquiring intellectual property by any means necessary. The 48-hour threat now had a face and a terrifyingly powerful organization behind it. Dr. Thorne's response was immediate and decisive. The collaboration is over, Darius, for your safety. What? No, this is my work. And it's attracted sharks. We can't protect you from Omnicorp. The best thing you can do is disappear. Pretend it was all a fluke. Let this blow over. It felt like a betrayal. They were taking his life's work away from him to protect their own interests. Dejected and angry, he went home, feeling more alone than ever. Peterson's information had backfired, costing him his SpaceX partnership. The 48-hour deadline arrived. Darius and his family waited in tense silence, the house feeling like a cage. But no one came. No threatening calls. Nothing. Then, a new email arrived, this time to Keisha's account. It was from Omnicorp, and it was cordial, professional, and utterly chilling. Asterisk, we understand your partnership with SpaceX has concluded. We are now the sole party with a serious interest in your talents. Our offer remains. Join us. We provide unparalleled resources and, most importantly, permanent security for you and your family. This is your final opportunity to accept our protection willingly. Asterisk, the threat was clear. Come with us, or the danger to your family won't be a threat. It will be a reality. They had backed off because SpaceX was out of the picture. Now they had a clear field. As Darius read the email, his phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. He answered, bracing for Omnicorp's voice. Instead, it was Mr. Peterson, and he was hysterical. They know I talked to you. A car has been sitting outside my house for an hour. Williams, you have to help me. You have to tell them I was working for you. The line went dead with a final, terrified gasp. Darius looked from his terrified family to the cold, corporate email on the screen. Omnicorp wasn't just coming for him anymore. They were tying up loose ends. Peterson was the first. His family would be next. He had no partners, no protectors. He was a 13-year-old boy standing against a global shadow empire. He had only one weapon left. His mind. The silence after Peterson's frantic call was more terrifying than any threat. Omnicorp had shown at hand. They were methodical, patient, and they cleaned up their messes. Peterson was a mess. Darius's family was next, sitting in the dark of his bedroom, the glow of his laptop the only light. Darius felt a cold clarity cut through the fear. They saw him as prey, a resource to be acquired. But they had made a fundamental error. They had dismissed him as just a boy, forgetting that the mind that built an M drive in a garage could also build a weapon. He couldn't fight their muscle or their money, but he could attack their greed. Omnicorp wanted his intellect. He would give them a taste of it, a poison one. He called Liam. I need your help. One last time. We're going to build a Trojan horse. The plan was audacious. Darius would appear to capitulate. He would send Omnicorp an email, accepting their offer, and attach a file containing what he called the core algorithm for stabilizing the M drive, the very key they were desperate to acquire. But the file would be a masterpiece of digital deception. Wrapped around a kernel of genuine, brilliant code would be a powerful, hidden data sieve. Once open on Omnicorp secure servers, it would act as a digital beacon, broadcasting their internal network structure and the location of the stolen file back to Darius and Liam. It wouldn't just be proof, it would be a map. And attached to that map would be a logic bomb, a program that would encrypt their own research on the drive, locking them out of their own work, with a ransom note demanding they stand down. It was a huge risk. If their code was detected, the retaliation would be swift and brutal. They worked through the night, Darius writing the brilliant, baiting physics, Liam weaving in the treacherous code. The next morning, Darius sent the email. Asterisk, you win. I accept. The attached file contains what you need. Leave my family alone. Asterisk, for 2 agonizing hours, nothing happened. Then, Liam's monitor lit up like a Christmas tree. They took the bait. The beacon is active. It's pinging from a server farm in Switzerland. and it's propagating. They're sharing it internally. The logic bomb is armed. They watched, breath held, as their digital creation wormed its way through OmniCorp's fortress. It was working. Then, Darius's personal cell phone rang. A blocked number. He answered. It was Ari Block. His voice was no longer smooth. It was a low, dangerous growl. A clever trick, boy. A very clever trick. But you made one mistake. Darius's blood ran cold. What? You assumed we were the only players, Block said. The encryption worm you just unleashed didn't just hit our servers. It's jumping firewalls. It's spreading to our partners. You just launched a cyber attack against a protected allied defense contractor. In the eyes of the law, you are no longer a child prodigy. You are a cyber terrorist. The world dropped out from under Darius. He had been outmaneuvered. OmniCorp hadn't just taken the bait. They had let him hang himself with it. They would now have the full force of international law on their side, painting him as a criminal. They could take him and his work with the government's blessing. We'll be seeing you very soon, Mr. Williams, Block said, the line going dead. Darius looked at Liam, his face pale. The trap had been sprung, but he was the one caught in it. The word cyber terrorist echoed in the silence of Darius's room, a death knell for his future. Liam stared at his monitors, the flashing alerts now representing not a victory, but a catastrophic indictment. They had been played. OmniCorp had used his own genius to criminalize him. There's no way out, Liam whispered, his voice hollow. They've got us. But in that moment of absolute defeat, Darius's mind, trained to solve impossible problems, found the one variable no one had accounted for, the court of public opinion. OmniCorp had the law, but he had the truth. They just had to broadcast it before the handcuffs clicked shut. Liam, can you live stream? To every major news outlet at once. Darius asked, his voice suddenly calm and focused. With the backdoor I built into their system, I can hijack every major news network in the country for 60 seconds, Liam said, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. Do it. Now. As Ari Block's operatives converged on his neighborhood, Darius Williams went live to the world. His face, young and determined, appeared on television screens everywhere, interrupting soap operas and news broadcasts. My name is Darius Williams. I'm 13 years old, he began, his voice clear and steady. A company called OmniCorp tried to steal my science project and threaten my family. When I fought back, they framed me as a terrorist. This is the proof. With flawless precision, Liam flooded the broadcast with evidence. The threatening emails, the clone tracker data, the photo of Darius's mother, the recorded call of a hysterical Mr. Peterson, and the damning digital footprint showing OmniCorp deliberately spreading his code to trigger the legal trap. He even included Dr. Thorne's initial security warning, time-stamped before the entire crisis. It was a tsunami of truth, raw and undeniable. The effect was instantaneous. Social media exploded. News anchors, recovering from the hijacking, had no choice but to run with the story. Hashtag Save Darius trended globally. Outraged parents, scientists, and civil rights organizations mobilized within minutes. The operatives outside Darius's house found their path blocked by a growing crowd of neighbors and activists alerted by the broadcast. Sirens wailed in the distance, but they were now for OmniCorp, not for Darius. In a final, masterful stroke, Liam triggered the logic bomb's true purpose. Instead of encrypting files, it released OmniCorp's entire internal file on Project Williams, their plans for acquisition, intimidation, and the legal frame-up onto the open web. The empire of lies crumbled in a single, glorious hour. OmniCorp's stock plummeted. Ari Block was arrested by federal agents before he could leave the city. The company would face billions in fines and congressional hearings. In the aftermath, Darius wasn't just exonerated. He was sanctified. He stood beside a beaming Dr. Thorne at a press conference, where she announced not just a renewed collaboration, but the creation of the Williams Foundation, a billion-dollar SpaceX initiative to find and protect the next generation of young, overlooked geniuses. The final shot is 1 year later. Darius, now 14, is no longer in a garage but in a state-of-the-art university lab, mentoring a group of wide-eyed, diverse young students. On the wall behind him hangs a framed, slightly singed poster board. M-Drive prototype. Testing for anomalous thrust. Mr. Peterson, having testified against OmniCorp, watches from the doorway, not as a teacher, but as a humble janitor, finally understanding that true genius isn't about knowing all the answers, but about having the courage to ask new questions. Prejudice tried to fail him, but his mind was already in orbit. Arrogance tried to steal his dream, but truth was the rocket fuel that launched him to the stars. The lesson is over. The future has begun. Please share this story for more social justice. We continue to push for social changes. Follow for more stories like this.